各位亲爱的网友朋友，大家好。
Hello everyone.
今天呢，我聊一个非常的传奇的、非常
Today
神秘的
we're going
建
to
筑。
discuss a very mysterious
它
and
坐落
very
在
interesting
南美洲的秘鲁
village, and it is in
一
Peru.
座这个大山。
It is in
山
deep in
顶
the
上
mountains. It's high up in
这
the
个
mountain.
都
It's
不
an
知道什么年
awesome,
代建的
awesome building.
非常的神奇，
It
非
is
常
very
奇特
mysterious,
它的名字
and
就叫做
the
马
name
丘比丘。
is Machu Picchu.
那么这个马丘比丘的这个当地语言的这个寓意就是古老
So
的山
Machu
巅。
Picchu, it means ancient
它坐落在这
mountaintop
个
in
两
local
个这个
language,
悬崖峭壁的
and
这
it
个高
is
山之
flanked
上。
by cliffs.
这个高山之高就是在2400
And it's 2,400 meters above sea level.
如果从在这个飞机上往下看的话
So if you view
这
from
个
high
小城堡
altitude,
就好像就在这个天上。
it looks like a
对，
city.
它离这个地上的生活还很远呢。因此呢，也被誉为是天空之
It
城。
is like a city suspended
那么
in the
这
sky.
个
Because of its unique geographical layout, it is also known as
它
the
的
city
独
in the
特性
sky.
还有值得我们
Because
今
of
天
its
来议论
unique
来讲一讲的
historical,
话呢，
cultural, architectural
这不
values,
仅仅是因为建在高处，它
it
里头
is
有无数个非
it
常
has
不可
many
思议的
unique
那个
and
神秘
amazing
点
and
大家
stunning
很快就
point.
知道了哈。
So
对
as we discuss, you will be able
非
to
常
learn
非常
more
有意
about
思。
it.
你们准备好了吗？
Are you all ready for it?
来一起聊一聊。
好，感恩师傅今天带我们到
Thank you,
南
Master,
美洲的秘鲁哈
for bringing us to
天空
Peru,
之城
对对对，
马丘比
which is a
丘
very
天空
ancient
之城
cities.
它是
So this city in the
面积大
sky,
概是13平方公里，差不多就是5公里乘3公里像一个小城镇这
it
个
is like a cities in the
但它里
sky.
边呢有200多
It is
所
about 13 square
建筑物
kilometers,
它
like a
的
small
建筑物
town,
的这个底部全都是
and there are
砌
more
的
than
石头
200 stone
砌的
buildings,
等一下我们在
many
细
of
看这个
which
图片的
are
时候
built on
我们
very
叹为
huge
观止
borders.
那这一些建筑呢，有的是住宅，
So
有的是
these
神庙
buildings
还有
includes
广场
houses. They
还有
have
这个还有特别大面积的那个梯田
and they also
还有
have
这个
very
种农业
huge
种植的
terrace
基地
view
那么我们就是
for
想
plantations.
觉得说这么高的这个地方哈，
And we wonder, in
首
such a
先就
high
看到这
place,
个话题的时候
where we see
那我们
this,
就有一个好奇心了
we are
哈
curious.
对，
就是这么险峻的地势哈，在山脊山巅
Because to have something like
为
this
什么有人选择这样的
at the
地
side
方
of the
来
cliff,
筑这样一个
to have such an amazing constructions.
那是谁建造的
Who
呢
constructed
它
it?
又是怎么建造的呢
How did they do
又
it?
是为谁而建的
And for
呢
who did they do
真
it?
的那我们就来一点
So
一点
there are
地
many
探索一下
questions that we have.
首先
So
我
let's
有一个问题
explore
哈
deeper.
这个高度在海
But
拔
first,
在
I have a
2300
questions. It is really high at 2,400 meters
这样的海拔的话
above sea level.
这个人的呼吸这方面
At that high level, does it
对在
affect
这个生理
our
上有很多反
breathing?
应。
就高原
Yes,
反应了
a lot of
反应
people have reactions.
我觉得和一些西
Altitude
藏
sickness.
我不是拉萨多少米
I'm not sure how high is Lhasa.
对
It's
它很
probably
高
quite similar.
一般就是头晕
And the
胀肚
symptoms
子
include they have
吃东西不
giddiness,
消化
and they have bloated stomach,
或者是
they
心
have
脏容易不舒服
indigestions, or they feel difficulty in breathing, and probably some tightness at the chest.
对
就让我们更好奇了
So, because of these reactions that we human beings can have, how did they manage to build this?
地方这么
And that
神秘
makes
然
us
后又这么古老
more
怎么
interested in it.
发现的呢
And how do people manage to find this?
知道是
Actually, when we look at the history, in 1911, professors and archaeologists
这一位这个考古学家呢，他呢是一直研究
he is someone that studied a lot
印加文明的
about
那么
Hiram
他听说了
Bingham III.
说就是有一个
He studied
印加
about the
古城
Inca
啊
civilizations.
那个古城叫
And
卡
He heard about these
啊
ancient
这个
cities.
地方呢，这个古城是印加皇帝最后
And
的
this
庇护所，就居住的地方。
This historians and this archaeologist, he has very keen interest in Inca civilizations and the Peruvian history. And he wanted to find the Inca cities, which was the last refuge of the Inca Emperor. So he really wanted to find out about these lost cities. So he came to the mountains, at the base of the mountain. But at the bottom of the mountain, a local farmer told him that there was a city on the mountain, and not many people know about it. So he became excited, and he wanted to explore this lost city on the mountain. So with the help of the farmer, he went to the top of the mountain. And at the point when he saw Machu Picchu, it was covered with very thick vegetation. He was so excited, and he started his work. And he found many artifacts from the Inca Empire here. It includes like pottery and those bowls, those containers for liquid, textile items, and even metal items. So he brought back Yale for research. He took 4 years to research on it. And in 1950, he published a book. This book called The Lost Civilization of the Incas was published. And when it was published, everyone got really excited about this Inca civilizations and let the world learn about this amazing site hidden deep in the Andes for the first time. And that was how it was discovered. But there is not a single word or mural on the entire Machu Picchu site. So what was it like during that period of civilizations? Nobody knows. But according to the cultural relics found, it can be seen that the last people to use this place were the Incas more than 500 years ago. So during that period is the Ming dynasties in China. So for more than 300 years after the fall of the Inca Empire, it remains unknown to the world until 1915, when it was made public by the archaeologists. So this book is also about the lost civilizations of Inca, so that got us excited. So we like to find a bit more about the Inca Empire. So it's about 3,000 years of history. It is one of the 3 major Indian civilizations in the ancient American continents. So they have the Maya civilizations, Inca civilizations, and Aztec civilizations. And the Inca civilization was an ancient Indian civilization that developed in Western South America. So, according to research by archaeologists, this vast area is the first area where agriculture appeared in the Americas, which is about 8,000 BC. So Inca civilization was formed around 3,000 years ago. So a developed agricultural culture has been formed, and the first forms of classes and states emerged. So it was the Inca Empire period starts from 1438. So they developed from the entire place. So it is very vast. So in the nearly 100 years since the founding of the Inca Empire, through various methods like military conquests and peaceful assimilations, the empire's territory covered almost the entire western Southern America. So it existed for over 130 years. So it is a civilization without writing. So how did they manage to do record of information? So that because they didn't have any written records, they did it through knotting notes. They used the different colors, different lengths, to express different data and informations by tying different knots on the rope. I think we mentioned this before, that in China, a certain period in ancient civilizations, they will use knot. They even record on the turtles' shells some of the major events. That's really interesting during that period. So the Inca civilization was also known as a golden civilization because a large amount of gold was used in the palaces and temples of the Inca Empire. And even the jewelries, they're all made of gold. And in the house, they have some gold statues. It's like they're usually placed in the holes in the walls of the house. So not only the emperor has it, but even the commoner house, they also have such a statues. So when the Spanish invaded the place, they also got many of this back to Spain. Not only that, Peru is very rich in mineral resources, especially in the mountainous area. So for silver, the silver reserve are very high as 98,000 tons, and it's ranked first in the world. And for copper is third in the world. And for gold, the gold reserve is ranked fifth in the world. So it's like they have this mega gold mine in the country. Yes, it's a very rich country. So the prosperous Inca Empire, it was discovered by the Spanish. So at that time, there's a Spanish army of about 200 soldiers. They marched south from Panama. So when they arrived the American continent, the Incas greeted them as if they were gods, incarnated, because they were very fair, very white. But they didn't realize that they would bring them disaster. Because at that time, a large number of Incas died of smallpox due to contact with the Spanish. So even the Inca kings died of smallpox. And when the Inca king died, his sons launched a civil war to fight for imperial power. So because they have infighting, finally a Spanish army of 200 men finally successfully conquered the Inca Empire. So we mentioned that it is very prosperous and it's very widespread, but they didn't manage to withstand the conquer of the Spanish soldiers. But the amazing thing is, they didn't even discover Machu Picchu. So it was after more than 300 years. Nobody knows about this place. So it shows no sign of damage when it was discovered. So there is a question, Master. The Spanish peoples are very smart and talented. They are very developed. They are very skilled navigators. Why didn't they go all the way to the mountains to discover Machu Picchu? Or is there something what's the reason why they didn't manage to find Machu Picchu? I think if you look at the positions of Machu Picchu, it has a very unique locations. If we talk about a building, let's say average building is about 5 level and it's 12 level. So because it's so high up in the mountain, from the base of the mountain, they can't see the top of it. So I would say that is the sign. As a sign that the Spanish soldiers didn't manage to recover it. there is something very mystical and mysterious about Machu Picchu,
就是不让他发现。
and they didn't want the soldiers to fight.
好，那我们
So
先把
this
这
is
个
a
悬念
super
先放在这儿
unique
啊
对对
我们网友
feat.
继续往下慢慢听。
So let's continue with the stories.
那师傅也是说，刚才一开始的介绍它是天空之城嘛。
So Master just
在
already mentioned that
两个
this
山
is a
中间
city in
的
the
这个
sky.
马丘比丘的它的意思叫古老的山
It
巅。
means
哈
it's a very ancient.
那么这个它在这个两个山巅中间
It's right in the middle of two mountains.
地震带上。
But
哎，对它这个地方这个秘鲁
this place, if you look at it,
它地
it is sitting on the fault line.
经常震，对，你看这个
Actually, this place always experiences earthquakes. Earthquakes are very frequent in Peru, and with hundreds of detectable earthquakes area.
而且它不是小地震哦，
And it's not
一年之中
just, it is actually magnitude about 7 to 8. So these are quite major earthquakes.
山体啊，对建筑啊，对
So when you have a magnitude of 7 to 8 of an earthquake, it will have huge impacts on buildings.
延续到今天哈，
But Machu Picchu is able to survive to today.
啊，只是知道
I think it's located precisely between the two geological fault lines.
没有被地震损毁的任何的痕迹，
Until today,
好无
there's still no sign that it has been affected by the earthquake.
很奇怪。
Why is it so?
对，
This is very special and
还
unique.
有这些建筑，
So let's look at the building
这么
itself.
神奇啊！
What's so special
就是
about
它
the
的这个建
cities?
筑的特色哈，结构有
So if you look at the structure of the cities,
石头建筑，
you can see that Machu Picchu is a stone city,
那么老大了，
and the buildings are all made of stones.
大石头估计得有几吨重啊！
I think each piece of stones is really heavy.
靠最下头的哈。
So if you look at
下头那
the
个大概有
picture,
十几吨吧。
就右
it's
下角那
it's
一
really
右下角
heavy.
那个有十几吨。
The right corner at the end, look at the size of the
它
stones.
那个地震
So when
它
earthquakes
不会倒塌
occurs,
哈
it will not
你看它
collapse.
往靠边缘上来说
So
的
if you
话
look at the
它
edge
好
of
像
the
是一层
stones,
一层地勾住它的。
it is actually
是吧？
it is actually hold on together in a very
你看就是右
in a
下角
very
那个大石头哈，你看
proper manner.
有三
So look
四
at the
层
one on the right.
楼梯一样的
It looks like there are some steps,
把
the
里面的
structure
石
like
头给
steps,
勾住了
and it hold on
在它
to
上头
those
再一
stones
层的大
above
石
it.
头呢，在它上头的大石头
And the stones that rest
那个
upon
大
it,
石头它不可能往震动的是往边上跑，
there's no way
它
that these
在它
stones
上头
can
出的
shake
有一个圆柱
and
状的那
collapse
个石头
during
呢
an
凸
earthquake
起了一个尖
because
角
it hold on very
那个
tightly
尖
to
角
one
就把
another.
上头的一层石头又给挡住了。
好像跟
And there is also
如果这个
a
墙想左右晃荡的话，
sharp edge,
那它
so it kind of like block
因为石
from
头本身的
the
重量
top
再加上上面
stones
压的
to
石头的
collapse.
重量，对不对？
Don't forget
对
that stone
它就
itself is very heavy.
有那个勾角，
So
它
when
不能
the
离开
earthquake
这个
occurs,
原有的位置
the stones in Machu Picchu's architectures,
他们发现
they are able to sit well and not fall.
马丘比丘的这个大石头这个建筑物哈，
In fact, there are some that shares that when an earthquake occurs, the stones in Machu Picchu's, they are said to dance. That's because they bounce around in the tremor and then return to their original positions.
还是落在原地那个
So they
窝里。
return back
架
to the original position.
对，它本身的结构啊
So that got to
重
do
量啊
with its
才
own
制造的形
structure
状哈
and the shape that is built. So it will not be able to leave the original position. That's the unique part of it.
呃
That's
对
modern
它的神秘
technology.
性更多哈
Well, there's certain thing that's more mysterious about
这
it.
个这个很多石头缝哈
In fact,
石头与石石头
they're
之间
saying
的
that
缝隙哈
the
好像现
gaps
在的纸
between the
是哦，
stones,
那它
you can't even put a sheet of paper through it.
呀，用
对
什么去
It is so tight.
所以你看它这个没有，
没有，就是石头对
对
石头。
So if you look at
没
it,
有那个水泥，没有
there's
胶
no cement, there's no sealants or anything. No, and someone is trying to use a credit card size card
大家可以
to
想
try to slot into the
这
gaps.
是石头，
But it's not
它
possible.
怎么能做到
Think about
连
this.
石头缝
This is a
用
stone.
小纸片儿的
How is it
尖
possible that it can't even have any gaps?
还有就是他刚才看到那些石头那些边角啊等等，这个到底是
So the other thing, Master, look at the side or the corners. Are they man-made or is it being manually done?
如果这样说哈，刚才那个有门的那个呢，大家看看那个。
So let's look at this with the doors. You look at the right side.
画了红线哈。
Can you see the one that we draw a red lines?
这个石头做了个尖角和它。
There is a sharp edge. So what happens when you have this? During the earthquake, it is not possible for these stones to jump down. So it will continue to stay. So what are the questions that you have? It seems like a cut. Why do they do that? Well, when they pick the stones, they try to pick the stones that can fit into it, or stones that are already cut in their precisions. So it is not possible for the stone to be like that naturally, to develop like that naturally. So I think it's more likely that they did some manual work to it to make it more precise so that they'll be able to cut it so that it can fit properly. So if we talk about like ceramic tiles and stuff like this, we can imagine that the modern technology can do it. But it is during that time when there is lack of tools. How do they do that? That's why it is very mystical. If we look at the construction of it, the architectural aspect of it, if you look at this, how the cutting is, it seems like we are cutting through like tofu. Or we are cutting like it is cut like a potato slice of potatoes, so precise. So the question is, who has the ability to cut it so well? What is the tools that they use that is able to operate on such a huge stones? And the other question is that the stone is so huge, it is not easy to move around these giant rocks. What did they do, or what tools, or what's their abilities to bring such heavy rocks to cut it? So maybe we need to know about the Inca civilizations. Did they have any special tools during that Inca civilizations? No, they don't. They don't even have wheels. At that time, the Incas did not have wheels as a means of transportation. Only alpacas and people. Well, we talk about the natural resources that they have is gold, but gold is soft, so they can't use that to cut through such stone. You need electric tools to cut it. But even with today's technologies, when we have electric tools, we still can't cut it so precisely. Let's explore deeper to find the answer to this. So I just want to introduce to you that how we build buildings. So as we try to build brick walls, there are some general knowledge. When we use bricks to lay a wall, when you place the brick, it is not straight. So if you look at the bricks, any wall, you find that they will stack on one another. So they are not placed on top of one another precisely. No, they need
一个
to
是这样的
stack
哈
them
但是呢，
cross
这
each
些砖
other.
墙呢，它平面的那一层那个缝还是统一的，对不对？
So if you look at the size, it's
所以
still the
这一层
same.
缝是一个笔直的缝，
So
每一层都
the
是笔
side,
直
the gaps is actually quite similar.
错开，这样就增加了它这个拉力结构的感觉。
So why
对
they
不对
built it in such a way that it has more
马丘比丘
strength?
那么长的墙
But now let's look at Machu
它
Picchu,
的
the
这个
brick walls,
竖
the
着的
stone
缝
walls.
有笔直的缝吗？
If you look at the gaps,
哦，还有它横着如果晃动
if you look
的
at the
时候有笔直的
horizontal
砖
part,
缝吗？
也没有。
没有，
do you have
只
gaps?
有局部的有一点儿。
Only
它就是
very
为了
slightly
卡
at
着
some
你呢，一个
parts.
是不能这个墙不可能从一头倒掉，对不对？第二个震动的时候，不
The
会
way that they hold to one another,
不会移动原来的位置。
it's hard for the stone to move away from the
所以你看
existing
这个
positions.
比如说这道墙当中，
So
最
if you
中
look
间
at
那个
this
位置
wall,
那个
you
石
look
头
at the
啊
middle.
变成了叫五面体。
If you look at the stone in the middle, it has 5 sides.
还有呢，这个中间这个大舌头的右
And
下角
the
有个
big
大舌头，对不对？
stones
它上
on the
上
right
头那个
side,
平面
there
有一
is
小
a
尖尖角
small
那个
stone.
尖尖角是不是
And
你
on the
看
top,
放两边的石头
there
它
is
会
a
模
sharp
糊的
edged.
和这个尖角之间相互卡住
Do you find that
这样你左
it
右
kind of
晃动的
like
时候
block one
它就
another?
不可能那个石头挪移过去。
So with this way
完
of
了哆嗦完了之后还回到原来
positioning,
坐在那儿，
it's not possible for the stone to move.
所以它的从竖线到横
So
线
if you
都
look
没有
at
机
the
会
vertical
把它
lines
开开
and the horizontal lines, the
它有
way
后
that
体的抗
the
劲
stones are placed,
就是在
it can
未
withstand
见
the
多少年
shakes.
大概几千年前的这样的
Maybe a few
这个建
thousand
筑
years
啊
ago,
有
its
这样的思维
type
模
of
式
constructions has
还有这
such
样的切割能力啊
ability.
是不可思议。
It's something
因为
that
现在
exists
这
a
个
few
做
thousand years ago.
嗯
It's totally stunning. Because even with modern technology, you're not able to do
这个
that.
非常有可能，非常有可能哈。所以我们就慢慢猜哈。里面
So
还有
let's
藏内
guess,
容
because there are a lot
我
of
们发现有
content
什么
in this. Do you have some other questions?
墙啊，师傅哈。
And
他
Master,
们那个马丘比丘
the
的建筑
wall,
墙它不是正直的，
it is not
它是有一点
vertical.
倾斜的。
It has the wall with some slope, with a slope.
这个照片上，
So if you look at this picture,
这样子，
往里靠。
对，为什么会这样
it's
呢？
slanted
为什么特别
slightly.
简单。如果你
The wall
到了
have a
马丘比
certain
丘你就
slopes.
知道了。
Why?
别忘了，它是建在
Well,
山
if you
顶
go to
上
Machu Picchu, you
它的
understand
往
why.
外呢，
Because
墙
it
外
is
边就
built
是
on the
接下
top
来
of
就
the
是
mountain.
极深的那个大悬崖。
So
所以
beyond
所有的
that
墙体呢
is
都要
really deep
向山的
curve.
中心方向靠拢。
So all the
对不对？
walls
因为外面
want
就
to
大石
place
头嘛。
close to the
所以
center
你
of
做完全
of it.
平面和垂直的
So
墙的
if you
时候
have something that's
如
extremely
果墙
vertical,
震动的时候，
if
说不定
there
就
is
倒掉。
trembles, it may
它往
drop
墙这个山的中央
and
方向略有倾斜啊，
and
略有
so
倾
when
斜
there is
它
a
的
slight
重量
slope,
呢集中在往这个
it will
山中央的
increase
方向集
the
中，
strength of the
这样它就
building
不会往
towards the
山
inner
庄下
side
栽下去。
and it will not
对对，所以这个
moved.
叫斜坡护墙哈。
So it is a
所以
way
它
like
产
with
生
a
一个
slope
很稳固的
protect
作用
the
就
brick
有了一
wall.
种半梯形结构。
So it's a little bit like a
进入
step
你
side.
发现它这块建筑，不管是门还是窗，你像现在咱们平时
So I realized that the building, whether it's door or its
或者是门
windows,
哈，有的有圆的啦，圆窗、圆本，它这都是梯形的
对
窗，，
好像
梯形的门
很喜欢梯形哈。
they seems to like
道理嘛。
这个比较简单啊，我这个
steps.
比较粗浅的
Why
理
is it
解
so?
他们第一个就是无论门
Well,
还是窗，上面都需要有个横梁，对不
I
对？
think first of all, for windows or doors, they need a horizontal pillars.
你知道
So
它
when they use
上头这个
stones,
悬空的这个部分搭的这个板，这
this
个梁
part,
这个梁无论
that
是
they
石头的
create these
还是
openings.
木头的哈，
so the
因为
top,
它
whether
上面
is
还
it
有入
stone
石头
or is it
它要承载这个重
wood,
量，可是
it
底下
needs
是
to
空的，对不
withstand
对？
the weight.
所以因此呢，在上面这个梁
So at the
越
top,
短就越安全。
the bigger
因为梁
it
上
is,
头还有压力
the
啊，
more stable it
对
is.
不对？
And if you look at the
这是
horizontal
一个从安全
big
角度来
stones, you have small
那么
stones
第二个的话
that
呢
sit on
比
it.
如那个窗户
It's
的话
for it's to
你
be
可以
saved.
住人是不是啊？
And
无论住人
secondly,
还
you
是
need
集会
people
用
to
的
live
哎
in
那我
the
在想啊
buildings.
那个地方
And I
还
think
是
that
下雨比较频繁。
that place they
所以
have a lot of
当我
rains.
上窗户的上头稍微窄一点的时候呢， 那个雨是从天上往下落。
So don't forget the rains comes from the sky.
有一定的防范性。
So when you have it this way, it will prevent the rain from entering the buildings.
窗户里面的几率，不是不会，是相
It
对地
doesn't
减少。
mean that it will
这是第一个
stop
概
the
念。
rainwater from entering the buildings, but it will
在这
provide
个
some
防阳光
some
晒得太
stops.
久
And the other reason is to
不要太多
avoid
阳光
too
进来
much sunlight.
哎，那么当它墙又有厚度，
So
而
when
且
the
上头
wall
再
is
窄一点的
thick
时候，
and at the
太
top
阳是
is
在
narrower,
这个窗户以上的位置，
so the sun will shine at
这上面窄一点，
the
那么它到
windows
这屋里
or
的时
higher
间
up.
会短一些。
So essentially, the time that the sunlight shined into the internal
对
part of the building
对，
will be less.
是这样。
So we are not cause excessive heat
对
when you're in the building.
都想到了，
对
对。
对，
They have considered all aspects.
那我们看了这些那个墙体嘛，我们再看还有一些大巨石，就一块巨石就是一个建筑的那种哈。我们来看一下图片，就那么大的巨石怎么给挖出来的？
We also see that there are a lot of large
这个
magnetic
这个
buildings.
墙体的，对。
对，像
They are huge rocks.
现在看
And
到
look
的
at
这
these
个
huge rocks.
块石头，
It's an
这个
entire
而
piece.
且打磨的那么平，哎呦，这个
And look at this.
这个也是
这个感觉
嗯，
太不可思议了。
This is so
这么大
amazing.
的石头能够
那一块儿
挖凿成
And
这
they
样
even
子
managed to craft out steps.
因为是很大的石头哈。
It's a huge stones.
我们在这个屏幕上不一定猜得到有
Well,
多大。
when we look at here
对
on
不知道
screen, you may not be able to feel
但是
how
磨石头能
vast
够
the stone
打磨的
is.
真的就是，所以那个时候的技术做成
So
这样
during
子
that
我觉得
time,
非常不可思
for the
议
technology to be able
但
to
是
do
吧
that,
它除了这
it's
些
just
巨石的
stunning
建
and
筑
amazing.
住宅之外哈，他们还有一些天文
Not only this,
啊，也是很有兴趣的，就是让大家来
they also have
就是很有
such
兴趣去研究它们哈。
they also have
印加人呢他们
astronomical
天文
buildings found in Machu
对
Picchu.
他们太阳和月亮
So
都是
in the
神
Inca
秘的
culture,
哎
the
他们以
sky
为
was very
通过
important to
很
them.
象来
And
决定
both
一
the
些
moon
日
and
活
the
动
sun,
的
they were
这个时
considered
间
as
哎
gods.
那有趣
And
的
the
是
Incas
有一个
observed the
叫三
celestial
窗神
phenomena
殿
to
哎我们来
accurately
看一下
schedule
哈
their
哎
agricultural
它也是一块
activities.
大的巨石哈，很
So
多
if you
巨石
look at
垒
these
起来的
huge
啊，中间
stones,
有三个窗户
and there are
你这
three
三个
windows
窗户你就
panel.
可以看到
There are
啊
three
源源
windows
不断的这个
on a
地势
huge
山
stone
脉
wall
那
facing
我
the
们可以
rolling
仔细看一
mountains.
下它这个巨石
If you look at this astronomical architecture, the three window temple,
对，看这个也是切割和
look at the
累砌的
precisions in the
非常的
stone
完美
cutting, near perfections.
平直平滑，这个看起来，肯定不是原装的石头。
So
嗯，是的，
definitely
是
these
的。
are not
那因为
original
这个建
stones.
筑的
These
这么
boulders
精
are
确和
cut.
建造的完美
The
在几个
sophistications
建
and
筑中哈，
perfections
所
of
以
this
后来考古
building
学家认为这是一
and
个宗教
many
的
scholars
建
think
筑
that is a
所以叫它
religious
三窗
rituals
神殿
were performed
那
here.
他们认为呢，这里是印加人来
They
祭
feel
祀他
that
们
its
的
the
神
purpose
灵，
was
就
to
是
worship the
天上
Inca's
神灵、
gods,
人间的神灵和地上的
especially
神灵，
those
通
who
过这三个
guarded
窗户来
the
祭祀
three
这
Incas
三
realms,
神灵的地
which
方
is the heavenly realms, the
对，
human
那还有一
realms,
个
and the
传
underworld.
说哈，也是特别跟这个有关的，就是说这个印加人呐，他们
There's
其实
also
他们
a
最
saying
初是
that
生活在
the
叫一个
Incas, they were
蒂卡卡湖
originally a
这
tribe
样的一个部落。
living in
这
the
个湖
lake
呢，它在地球的最
Titicaca,
南端。
and
啊，
that is
在
at
印
the
加人传说
southernmost
文化
tips
传说
of
中啊，就是说
Peru.
啊，他在印加
Based
亡
on
国之前呢，
legendary, there
其
is
实
a
有一个
legends
更
in
古老
Inca
的王国。
culture that
这个
before the
有一
Incas
当时呢有一
kingdoms,
个大神出
there
现了，
was
这
an
个大神呢
older
就从
kingdom
这个蒂
there.
蒂卡卡湖中啊
And a
造了
great
8个
god
孩子。
created
那这8个
8
神的孩
children
子啊，他们
from
就
the
从
lake
三窗神殿的这
Titicaca.
3个窗户走了
So
出
they
来
walk out
啊，
of
从
the
此
windows
就
of
成
the
为这
three
个印
windows
加圣
temple
地的统治者。
and became the original rulers of the Inca
Ah.
Holy
所
Land.
以我们也是在想，哎呦，这个
And
窗户
that's
好
why
像
we're
是
thinking
很
that
特殊
the
的
three
象征意义的，
windows
是吗？
must have very sacred representations.
这它的
Isn't
象
it,
征性
Master?
我们只能听一听。
Actually, we can just listen
毕竟
to
我
the
们
symbolics
它不
of
是
the
中国
windows
文化的那种
because it is
不
not
敢
the
妄下评论
Chinese
哈
culture. So we don't want to make
它色彩。
any
那我们再看一个另外的一个
guess
宗教
in
的
that
建筑，叫
respect.
太阳神庙。
嗯，
那刚才也说嘛，它这个地方那么大的
But
地方
definitely the
哈
window should be a
印加
sacred
人啊
symbols.
很早就进入了这个农耕的时代。
So we
对
took
太阳
mentions
对
that
天
they
气的把
start
握
in the
对农耕
agriculture
的话是非常
very
重要的。
early and agriculture is a very important part of the Inca's people. So if you look at these semicircular buildings, this looks like a temple for them to perform ritual, to celebrate or to announce the different periods. Because it is in the southern hemisphere, the winter solstice falls on the June 21st. And this is the shortest day of the year. And they say that on the day, it will shine upon the sunlight will shine through the windows upon the big rocks. And the sun rays on the summer during around December 22nd, they will shine in through another windows. So it is also says that the Incas will perform sacrificial rituals at the stone altars to thank the gods to ensure good agricultural productions in the coming months of planting and harvesting. So these are all guessed by various parties. So what do we want to seek Master's opinion? When you look at the windows and the huge stones, what do you think it means? What is the function of these big stones? So it is actually in semicircular size. So people who live in the northern hemisphere, be it Canada, USA, China, or India. So it is like the directions of the sun movements. It represents that. So they talk about the left windows and the right windows. It must represent important moments or important rituals. So what are those? To represent the beginning of summer or the beginning of winter. It is on that special occasions that the sunlight, the ray, say for example in the morning from what time to what time, it will shine the inside of it. It will shine upon the huge stones. Normally it will not shine upon that, but only that specific day. It is different from the Egyptians. There in Egypt, there's also a hole. So it is about 20-30 meters deep. And in a year, it's only 1 minute to shine into the hole. And its precision. At the time, they cannot shine upon it. But for this, the window is a lot bigger. So the moment that the sun rays, it will shine into it. So on special occasions, when the sun rises and moves to a certain degrees and angle, it will shine into it. It roughly means that. It just means that this special day of the year has finally arrived. So there are people who observe this. So they use this to read the sign. So maybe it's a way to tell them that it's time to start planting and when it's the time for harvesting. Because these are important solar terms in agricultural productions. Because they are very high in agricultural productions, so that's why they need to observe the movements. In fact, at the altar, in this stone altar, they would try to read the stars or to read whether it's going to be more flooding or is it going to have more earthquake. So it is a mega size to know, to get sign from the universe, but we have not lived there. So to what extent do they use this for predictions? We do not know.
到时候那时候特定的颜色，就是一刀切下去这个食物而出现了什么颜色啊？对，那这个时候就可能代表着今年有水灾。
So maybe there are some way for them to understand the sign. Maybe a specific fruit, and if they cut through the fruits, it has certain colors. It may mean that maybe this is the year with floodings or no floodings, or this is the year that they experience drought. So definitely there are some people who are very much into this area, who studies deeply into this area, then they provide helps to the people. So if they expect droughts, they will have a massive prayer sessions, and they will carry out these prayer rituals to hope to mitigate such risk. And if it's effective, they will see, they will know that their prayers have been answered. So we are talking about the huge stones. They must have the technology to cut the stones. But why is it that there some specific symbols on it? It seems like there's some carving. Yes, there's some straight line, curved lines, and it looks like they are certain shaped. So it got to do with the light source.
比如就是说，比如说快到了这个夏季了哈，我在一个早晨的
For example, before summer arrives,
这个像神父、神职人员来看，说这个时候有没有露珠落在这里？
you look at this place and you say that are there some dew at these locations?
露珠，比如你看有个斜面，
Say, for example, you see a slanted slope on the stone. If there are a lot of dew, it may mean something.
哎，都没落下去，就可能说正好，今年是这个不缺水啊，正好是吧？
So different sign
这是我的
would
猜测
means different
啊这是
things.
猜
That's
测
my
它
guess.
这个原长
So
形的
it's
这个他问
psychics.
我哈，我个人觉得呢，他可能在看说，当有一天咱们观天象的银河，当银河的方向和地上这根长的石头那个方向相吻合的时候，
So maybe they're trying to look at the Milky Way.
再看那个星象中，
And when
某个星星的
the
闪
so
烁的这
these
个
big
亮
stones
度
may have
来
that
决定
specific
今年是有
functions.
灾呀
When the Milky Way
瘟疫
correspond to these
或者
stones,
祷告说他的
for
这个
example, what do you see
皇
when
帝
you
或者
look
这个
out of
族
the
长
windows?
健康状况啊，
Or maybe they are doing a prayers for the emperor
这个
for
就是
good
因为他
health.
在观星象，
So
在
they are
星象之中无
using,
所不
they
包
are looking at the
这样，它星
star
象并不
signs
是光代表着
to make
天气
observations.
它还有
to
很多内容。
There are a lot of
所以你看这
content
个
in
银
the
河
star
从照片
signs.
上看的话，
So if
你
you
也可
look
以想
at
象一个
the
长的一个
Milky
石头
Way,
木头，长条状的。
it looks like
因为咱们这个地
wood
球哈和
panel.
太阳之间啊一直绕着圈儿转
Because
啊，
in the
所以
solar
在不同的季
systems,
节我们
our
在看这个
Earth
银河的这
continuously
个
to move.
这个方向哈，这是一根大棍子。比如说我夏天的时候，哎，横在我面前，再到秋天的时候又斜着了，
转弯了，对
是吧？
对对，
到
是的
春天的时候呢，它又竖过来了。
Maybe it will
这是因为
move
我们和
with
太阳
different
之间的这
seasons,
个关系
different
等等
change. And that's because of our relationship, the Earth
其实
relationship
是我们自
with
己
the
的想象
Sun.
对，这银河并没变方向。
Actually, the Milky
地球
Way
位置
doesn't
变
change
了方向
directions,
所以看它的
but it's
方向不
because
同
we keep
那么
rotating.
古人呢，
And that's why
没
we
办
have
法
the
懂这个东
changes.
西。
Why is it
看
that
这个
ancient
有一天
people
这个
know about
地上
this?
这根长石头和银河的方向，哎，变成一致
So
了之后，
when they find that
我
the
再
Milky
观
Way
察哪颗星是
corresponds
什么样的，
to the
将意味着
stones,
什么，
it may have certain meaning
那
to
我
it.
知道了。
你知道吧
那？个西班牙人来
So I
的
know
时
that
候
the
那
Spanish
估计他们
people,
这些星象学家
before
已经
they
都知道
arrived,
了
哦，
because they probably know
有
about
事儿要
this,
发生，
看
they
这
really
个
knew
眼
that
睛
something will
对
happen.
黑胡子的家伙，
对，或
哎，
者是什么天灾瘟疫要来了
对
啊。
They probably
那
can
我为
predict
什么
it.
西班牙人都没上来看，没看见马丘比丘呢？
对，
他们
Why
可
do
能
we
就
say
那
that
隐身
this,
了
the Spanish people don't come up?
不知道了，就是越说
不是
越多了。
如果
啊
人隐身的话，这石头城没法隐身呐。
石头，
嗯，
对，
我说慢慢接底哈。
慢慢再
Let's
说了
slowly
啊
look
非常神秘
deeper
的一
into
件
it because it's very mystical,
那可
mysterious as
总
well.
的来说，它有这个观测 天象
对，
来研究
So
我
it
们
has
这
the
个
ability
族
to
群
look
该
at the
怎么
star sign
这样的一
and
种
to understand
结合
about the
应
crops,
该
the
是
agriculture
超级
aspect.
文化的这个现象，
So it represents super cultural
非
aspect.
常先进。
很厉害，很
It
厉
is
害。
very advanced level.
那我们看一下刚才那个太阳神庙外面，我们
So
刚
let's look at what's outside the temple.
对，
从外墙看一下它那个。
So if you look at the outside of the temple,
它那个窗户4个角有4个
if you look at the windows,
凸出来，
they are actually 4 protruding corners.
九九，
这是啥？
What is that? Where are the 4 protruding pillars on the window for?
为啥有4个啾啾？
这还下面还有俩。
这我怀疑哈，
I
因为
suspect
他这个神庙也好，
because
还
this
是开会的地
temple
方
or is it a
因为
place
别
that
的
they
窗
have
户也有这个
major
九九哈
major
我觉得是
meetings
好像就是用窗户的，比如说拿木板哈，做个窗户，那么它不像现代那种窗户有荷叶什么东西来回开。
I feel that
对
that's
它就可能
because
是
it's
木
not
板
like today.
哎或者用草
We
板
don't
的一个
have
窗户
they don't
可以
have
挡风
like
的东西啊
curtains to cover it.
对
Maybe they use
我
straws
研究
or
了
they
一
use
下呢
wood
就是一
to
块儿
place on it
你看
to
它那
cover
个
it.
窗户哈
If you look at the
外头那
windows,
四个你说那个九九
so
哈
there are
这个
4
突出
protruding pillars at
它拿
the
了一块大木
windows.
板呢
So if you
它
have
的
a
外
wood,
边木板的外边就是那4个九九整个那大外围的大方块儿。
so
可
if
是
you
对于那
have
4个九九呢
a wooden
切割出四个空的角儿来，之后呢把木板往这一放，它就不会掉。
So maybe it's to use a big wooden panel
甚至
and they
上
have 4
面不但
holes
卡住
and they put
还有东西
through
卡住
the through the
窗户和
pillar,
这个上面
then
两
the
根小
wood
柱子
would
哈
not
之
fall.
后底下拿棍儿一捅，这个窗户还能支起来，
哇塞，厉害！
还能透气透光。
哦，
当如果白天想观察什么天象的时候，是吧？这块
Maybe it used
这
this
块木板
to block
起到
a
遮
wooden
光挡
panel.
光看天
So
的作用
during
好
daytime,
玩吧？
it will be able to cover, block
当
the
然它首先
sunlight,
是一个窗户的功能哈
but
遮挡
definitely
风
this
雨啊预
acts
防
as
啊
the function of the
哎
windows.
对
It will block the
别的窗户上
winds,
也有
block the
这个
suns.
对对对
In fact, that's not the only windows that has it.
光这神庙上有呢。
对对对。
Not only just the sacred
我看还
temples,
有一个呢，它有
other
6个
building has it too.
6个九九，
6个
就窗户
Another
的
one, you see
上
that
面
they
的
have
侧面
6
还
of
有
it.
2个
Look at this,
对
at the side, at the corners, there are 2
对
other
它
pillars
这个
as
就是
well.
说可能还
还能
有甚至双层
推拉性能。
双层
Maybe it's
对
something
应
like you can
啊
move
都是有
beyond.
可能，
Yes, it's likely.
这都是猜想的。
We are all making some
看这个都
guesswork.
猜嘛，
嗯，
那师傅猜的还挺合乎。
挺有意思啊。
But Master, your guess is quite,
那我们接
it
着
seems
看
quite
外墙
reasonable
下
as
面
well.
嗯，
结果还有
So
一个
let's look
台阶
at the
嗯
exterior wall, the below.
对，
It looks
还有
that it's
人
quite
猜
deep.
想说底下太阳，因为说印加人崇拜太阳神嘛，那么这个太阳庙的底下呢，其实就是印加国王的坟墓。
So some even make a guess that
猜想都有。
below the temple, the sun temple,
这个
is actually the grave of the emperor.
通往任何地方。
But if you look at it, there's no openings to anywhere.
嗯，
But there is a report that says that more than 100 mummies were
它里头就是石头
discovered
山嘛
below.
它里头有一些洞，类似于洞穴哈。
Yes, because this is mountains, stone mountains. There are
外
some
头这个像楼梯
holes.
似的那么一小段儿，
对
又没有东西往上走。
对呀，
So there are like steps. So what is that
哎，
for?
我呢就因为我对历史文化
Because
还认识一些
I
哈
do have some
这个
knowledge
中国
about history.
中国的远古时期的有一个玉的一个璧，
It looks
玉
very
璧有关
similar
系那个玉璧呢，它是对上头
to
有
a
3
jade
个
piece
棱
in China.
凸起物，也
So
像
if you
楼
look
梯一
at
样的凸
this,
起物那这个东西是干啥的呢？
what is this for?
他用它呀哈，这个
This
过
is
去
a
就是
piece
这
of
个
jade.
神职人员，就是说应该叫什么？
And the godlike
通灵
people,
者
people who are
巫师
psychics, or
大约吧，就是这种神职人员。
people who are able to communicate with
当
heavens and
在
God,
比如说他看某个
when they
星
see
斗图像的
a
时候，
certain sign,
他用这样的这个
they
角
use
度
this
来对着那个
degrees
夜晚天空的那几
to
个星
face
宿哈，
the
位置
stars,
这
the
个
positions of the stars
对。
in the sky.
如果符合于这个排列，他说这是什么季节
If
到
it
了
follows
啊？接下来我们
a certain
领导
order
应该去做什么？
they'll say that certain
天象的。
对，
certain
这个
season has
这
arrived.
个东西
So we look
就
at
像
what
中国的
they have
这
the
样的一
steps.
个来看
Do
天
you
文的
think it looks
这样
quite
一个
similar
玉蝶
to what we
上面
have
那个图
the
案
jade
观测天的。那我们
items
从
in
这么
China?
观测哈，别忘了它上头是什么样啊？
太阳神庙
So we're just making a guess. Don't forget that on top is the sun temple. Why is it there are a lot of mummies hidden
就
below?
正是想着这个事情哈，不一定，也可能是巫师，也许是某种王，
Maybe it's some
有权力的
emperor,
人
maybe someone
他
of
们
great
相
power.
信说，而且他选的这个太阳神庙，这个底下这个大石头
They
啊
picked this
有个大
place
斜洞
to bury. Because don't forget, there is this slanted
我
hole.
的感觉他
below
要的
it
就是这种好像一种起飞的感觉。
What they want is to fly
可
off.
能他认为会对
They
应着
feel that
他们崇拜的某个星宿，或者是
they will
咱们
connect
今天说那种
with
像
a certain stars that
由星组
they
成的
want
叫
to
什么
link
星
to.
座
星座
Or in
比如
modern
觉得是
time,
天狼星的，
we
是吧
talk about there are
对吧？
certain signs,
这
star
个说不定是
signs.
天猴星的，对，它
It
对
just
应
means
他们
that
所
they are
信仰崇
able
拜的
to,
那个
it's based
星
on
宿
what their belief systems,
那
what they believe in, they'll follow
那并
through.
不是每个人都成为了木乃伊呀。
But it doesn't mean that
这有身
everyone
份
can
的，
become
这个
a
神职人
mummy,
员
can be mummified.
王
Only
室的
those
重要成
high-ranking
员
officers
帮着
or
有
very
人帮着
senior
制作成木乃
statesmen.
伊，就是希望说在这儿好像就坐上了宇宙飞船了。
So once you are here,
人
when
就
you're
去了
mummified here,
可是人
you're
可能
like
去了，
taken
但
the
是肉体还留在这儿
spacecraft.
它属于这个现象。
师傅，我又有问题了哈。
说
Master,
来
I have another
对，你
questions.
看这个印加这个文明，这个
You look at this
马丘
Inca
比丘的木
civilizations.
乃伊哈。
嗯
那我们都知道，最熟知的木乃伊来自于
We know that
金字
对
塔，对吧？哈。
对，
most of the mummies that we know is actually from
别的地
Egypt.
方还有木乃伊啊？
Where other places have mummies in the
应
world?
该没啥了吧？
Not many
而且又
places
发
have
现它跟
mummies.
这个埃及有点像。
Why is it that there's some similarities with mummies? Because in Egypt, they found they found mummies and they also found huge stones.
还有就是
是
在埃及那个
Yes.
文化中，那个木乃伊
And in the
它
Egyptian
做的也是说
civilizations,
保存了肉
the
体，让灵
mummies
魂
is
更
also
对，
we also understand that is to keep the body so that the spirits can
这样
raise
起飞的
有。类
to
似的
heaven. So it's actually there's some
文
similarities
明
here.
嗯
隔着老远老
So
远了。
对
The two
有近似之处
civilizations
哈
are way
哎，我
they are
慢慢
huge
听
distance
就会
apart. Why is it
又有
that there are
近
so
似之
many
处或者是
similarities?
更神圣的东西哈。
啊，好，
对就会发
对，我们
现
都发现了。你看啊，
对对
继续来
太有。趣了，我
还有什
们继续
This
么
is so exciting. Let's
还有一
continue
个
to
很有
explore
趣的天
deeper.
文建筑叫栓日石，
嗯，
哎，我
They
们来
have
看
a
一下
very
对
interesting
太阳摔起来
astronomical
似的那种感觉哈
architecture,
对但
and
这
that
个
is
石
an
头它是在哪
astronomical
呢
clock.
首先它的这个位置哈，马丘比丘不是也像一个
So
银河那样的一个形状似的吗？
Machu Picchu is like the
长方
Milky
形的
Way,
它在这个马丘比丘中轴
how
线的
shaped,
最正中央，
and
也
in
就
the
是整个马丘
center,
比丘的制高
right
点和中
in the
心点
center
啊
of
这么一大
Machu
块巨石
Picchu,
放在了最
there's
最
this
正中的
huge
位
piece
置
of
然后
stones
呢
right at
在
the
每
smack
年
right at
的
the
春分和秋
center.
分的时候啊，
嗯
太阳啊，正午的太阳照射在这
And
块
the
石头上
locations where the huge stone was built is exactly in the center
所以
of the
他们就
central
会知道
axis
哎
of the
春
north
分
and
秋
south
分到来的
mountains,
时候那一
which
天
is also
这
the
个地
center
方
of the
正午
entire
的时候
Machu
就没有
Picchu.
影子那我们
On
知道
the
在赤道
on
上哈
the
哎
vernal
那个
and
正午照射的时候它没有
autumnal
影子但是
equinox
这个
each
地
year,
方呢它是南北
the
13
sun will
度
shine
南北
directly on the
13
stone
度
pillars
对
at
南
noon,
北13度对那这个地方要没有影子这个
and
石
there's
头就要
not
调
a
90
shadow
度
around.
它上面出来的那一块儿它要调出一个13度的角度来
对，
才能
They
够
need
出
to
现那个影
adjust
子
the
的情
exact
况
coordinates of Machu Picchu are
对
13
它调成
degrees
13度才能对应太阳的正中午的那个位置。
to face
对
the sun
对还不
in
能
the
笔直
middle, the
笔
noon
直
sun.
不行
It
可
needs
是
cannot
它
be
这个石
vertical,
头就调成了13度，
so they
是
need to
那
adjust
所
certain
以才到
degrees.
了那一天，
嗯
太阳
So
到
that on
中午
that
的时候
day,
照下来没有影子。
对
when the sun shine upon it, there's
这
no
个科
shadow.
技能力也太超前了吧？
So during the
不管
spring
说你是
and
500年前或者5000
autumnal
年前
equinox,
实
the
在是不
sun
可思议
shines almost directly at the
我
equator,
还想评论一下这个
and the
山石
raised upper
它是
part of the
一
stone
块
pillar
完整的
is
大
accurately
石头
carved with
这是
inclinations
别的
angle of
地方
13
师傅给我们
degrees,
讲那些
and
杂
there's
货
no
铺啊
shadow
讲那些
when the
玉
sun
器啊
shines
雕刻的
on the
时候
stone
哈
pillars.
说要雕成一个物件的话， 得掏掉外面好大的一个东西哈。
I remember Master when shared with us before that when you do carving, they need to remove a lot
都给切掉了。
to cut in order to get the precision of an exact piece of stone. So how did they manage? How did they manage to place such a huge stones here, right in the center?
对，
而且这上头每一个图案都是有说法，
And every
都是对应天的
diagrams, there is a meaning behind it. It represents the heaven, certain aspects of the heaven.
他们现在报道到只是中间突出的
Actually,
地方
now they reported
啊
is
那个突
only
出
the
的那个像
protruding
鱼
center
背的那个
parts.
鱼鳍一样，是吧？
自己啊，
其实呢，其他
But
的部分
actually,
都有代表性。
there are also other parts that have representations as
它
well.
的形状哈，
对，
对，它旁边
Including the
你看啊
shapes.
这张照片
If you look
它
at the
会就是
side,
突出那块儿旁边下面周围还有一个
and
有个
if you
色
look at
角
the
上
below,
有个突出的小柱子，
there is a little protruding corners as well.
对，你看那个揪揪，
Look at the
这个时候还
protruding
照出了
corners.
斜影来，对不对？
There is a certain
对，
shadow.
所以我就认为呢，哈，上头突出的那
I
个
think that
看
the
日食
top,
的那个
the main
点
one,
柱状那个最高的那
the
个
top
是看太阳，
is actually to see
这
the
个是测量
sun.
月亮，
So this may be to look at the moon.
对，有可能，嗯，
It is very
这个
likely.
时候说月亮带给他那个影子到哪一个度，
Maybe
代表着什么？
different degrees where
哇，这越听越神秘了。
太神秘了。
different degrees represent
其实
different
在
things.
这个观天文的
Basically,
这
what
些
is
学者哈
what is it
有
for
很多时
is
候他就是
it
在
is
广
actually
西呼吸中看到的
an
透露
astronomical
一个小小的我所知道的一个
structure.
小经验。
好，
比如说到了他想在某一天，我也看看说接下来，这几天里
Say,
头
for
这三五
example,
天这一个礼拜，
They want to make
哎
some
这个天气
predictions
怎
or
么
they
样
want to see what's the
他也
future.
许在网上来
They
看
want to see
从
what's
月
the
中
weather
月光
like.
照过来
They may
照到
come
了
in
这
the
个下
eve
面
in
这
the
个小
at
揪揪
night
这里
to look here,
在这
to
个
look
它
at how
一
the
起相关
star
的这
shines
个
upon
光影
this
的区域
structure
之中，
and
你能看见的像
to look for
有雾
sign.
气升腾
Maybe
的
there are
汹
some
涌的感
mist.
觉
There's some mist
有可
that
能是
shows.
超级大海水，
Maybe
像
it
那种
means
叫
that
那个
海啸，
超级潮汐，像那个地震那个叫索纳米那个东西，海啸，
it could be like a
海啸要来
tsunami
了，
is
或者是
approaching
超级海上大风暴来，
or there is a
啊
major
因为
typhoon
他们
coming
边上也靠海嘛，
because Peru is
是吧？
close
他就
to
在
the
这个
sea.
光影之中去发现
So
这
it
个
is
东西
through
这
the
个东西
light
对于神
source
智人员它是通
to
灵的。
give some
它容易看到。
indications of the
有时候一
sign.
般的壮汉粗鲁一点之后，根本啥影子也看不见，哎，那么这样身体比较敏感哈。
So
只
they
有
are
这样
actually
训练
very
的人
sensitive.
才
Their
能看
body
到
is
这个
actually
状况
very sensitive. So they are
所以
able
他
to
在
make those
来
observations.
审视、来预测。
So when they are
今
here
年
to
的
make
这
predictions
个
about the
收成
future, what's
啊
going to happen in the coming year
健康
in
啊
terms of health,
运
in
气
terms
呀
of harvest, in
等
terms
等
of
的
luck,
各方面的
in
事情的时
all
候
different
光
aspects.
这一个台哈，
Just by
光一个
having
翻阅
this,
是不够的。
just by
还有
having
看
this
月
is
亮
not enough.
甚
They also
至
need to
还要在上
observe
面
the
查看
sun,
金
not
星
only the
是如
sun.
何
They need to
啊，北
observe
斗
the
星如何
moon. They need to
对
observe
只
other
是说
star
今
sign.
天我们普通
Why
的
we can
学
say
者
that
是
now
不具备
our
这样的
ordinary
能力
person we lack
来
the
使用这个
ability
石头
to
和解读
use
这个
this
石头能带
structure,
给他
to
什么？
use this to
对，
try
因
to
为毕竟
understand what it
今
means.
天的研究者
Because
不是当
today
初的
a
创
lot
造者
of the
对
a lot of the researchers they are not the creator of this, so they do not know what this structure actually what's the real purpose of this structure.
对，传不下来。嗯，
And because they have no written language, so that's not possible for them to pass down this knowledge to future generations.
真是好遗憾
嗯。，真是好神
What's a
奇
pity,
哈
but definitely it's very mystical.
它在这高山上嘛，
Right smack right in the middle, right in the
建筑都很
right
神
in
奇
the center
他
of
们的生活
the
对生活应该是怎么样？从哪
就在
里？
山顶上喝水怎么办？
So what about drinking in the high up in the mountains? How do they do that?
惊讶啊！
哦
来给大家
So the architecture of Machu Picchu is truly stunning.
山峰之间嘛。
So in addition to this incredible stone building,
其实它那个
Machu Picchu also has a very sophisticated
这个地方
water
呢
system.
这个下雨是很多的。
So this place rains
所以
a
这些雨
lot
水呢
in the
就会
rainforest.
夹在那个山体断层中间。
So it is actually cascade down from the terrace,
水啊，
flows down the cliffs.
现在就发现了马丘比丘之后呢，
So after they found Machu Picchu,
也问这个问题嘛，
they
他们
start
就
to
发现了
questions
离这个石头
about
城
the
750
water
米处发
systems.
现了那个水源，
They
啊
found that there
就
is
是山
actually
泉
a
的那
water
个
source,
起点，对对
the
对，
beginning of water
源
source.
头了，对，750米吧。我们现在看到的这个粉红色的这个线路，
If you
就
look
是他
at
们修的
the
水渠，
archaeologists discovered a
把这
water
个山
source
泉水啊
750
经过
meters
750
away
米的
from
水
the
渠
cities.
通道，一直通到城里来。
And
那么怎么通过来？肯定要
next
有
to
这
the
个用这个
water,
地球引力这个
they
重
need
力
to
嘛哈
divert
那
the
个地
spring
方
water
高，那个水
all
源
the
的地
way
方高，
to the
这个城这
cities.
块低啊，要这样子哈。但是呢，你整个的这个水渠，它必须得有一个坡度，它才能够把水
They
引
need
进
to
来
have
的。
an angle
然
in
后我们
order
这
to
朋友
bring the
专家
water
去
there.
测量的话，还真的是，竟然就是发现哈，他们建这个的时候呢，它这个水渠的这个确实有一个角度。
Actually,
啊
the archaeologists they found that it's actually constructed in an angle.
好像就是1.7度吧，不到2度的那么一个。
So it was actually has a slight, it was actually built with inclinations of approximately 2 to 3
你看，这就是这个水渠。
degrees.
嗯，
So if you look at this, these are water channels. The water channels are 10 to 15 centimeter deep and approximately 15 centimeter wide. It's quite small. So these are built, these water channels are built.
不然那个水会渗的，会跑呀哈。
对
所以这个水渠底下还是有地基的。
嗯，
这个水不会浪费的。
对。
然后一路
So
引
that
过
actually
来
the spring water flows through the water channels
引
to
到这个城里
gravity.
呢，其实那个源头到这个城里750米的距离嘛哈，但是它海拔落差是30米，就是这样就引过来了。
So the water
引过来
source is
呢它
about 30
是先经过
meters
田
higher than Machu
先经过
Picchu.
农业区
So
但是
need
不
to
是灌溉
pass the
用的哈
terrain
等一下再
first.
讲灌溉的事情。它这个水引过来就是给城里的
So
居民的
when
饮用
they
水生活用水
bring the
啊
water
它经过
from
这个漫
the
长的
mountain
梯田
spring
上
water
到城
down,
里之后呢，
they actually drain to
不止
all
它先引
parts
到高处
of Machu
啊
Picchu.
然后呢，从高处到低处，差不多这个20多米的期间呢，建立了
So it's
16个
20
喷
meters.
泉
They also built some
高
fountains.
处的那个地方呢，就是国
There are
王
16
住的地方
springs
那国王就是喝地
in the
面水
cities
就是
they can
这个意思
supply
啊
to the
我们
entire
饮水
cities.
最关键的水
And
从来都没喝
start
过的
the
呢
spring
啊
water
山水
is
水
distributed
啊
through
国
a
王
series
先喝
of
然后你
16
看它就沿着这个
fountains,
石头的
and it start with the
往下
emperor's
流往下流
residence and
流
sacred
下来一个地方呢，
buildings
还有一
in
个
the
蓄水
highest
池，你看
part
那个
of
方
the
形的，它
cities.
是蓄水池。
And
蓄
there are
水池它
also
就不让
reservoir.
那个水的
Near the
体量
number
啊
one
水量
fountain is the
啊
royal
还有流
palace,
速啊
so
都
the
有一
king
个
get
缓
to
冲
enjoy the
积
cleanest
蓄
water.
啊然后又往下流。
And each spring has a spout
你
that
看热水
collect
流一直
water,
这样子，
drinking
而且它
water,
都是经过这个计
and
算的
which
哈。
then
他说
accurate
每分钟啊
accumulated
就
in the
是
pool
20
and
升
flow
到
to the
100
next
厘米的
fountain
流量，它也不会
and
溢出来这
eventually
个水
down the
渠哈，
hillside
哎，
of
这
the
个水量
city.
就够大家用啊。又
So
又
the
不会
vertical
没有
drop
水
between
又不会
fountain 1 and
太多
fountain
又不会
16
溢
is
出来
approximately
计算的那
26
么的
meters.
标准
The
啊。
hydraulic design of the fountains
我觉得特别
allows
难得的就是
reasonable
这么
operations
多年了，可
at
能
flow
这
rates
个
of
不知道这个是
approximately
什么时候
20
建成的，
to
到今
110
天还有
liters per
水渠
minute.
能够流出来。
都有可能好几千年嘛，咱们
This
啊
probably
对吧
lasts for a few
现
thousand
在这
years.
个水渠还在正常使
Until
用
today,
哇，多
this
神奇啊！
water
而
systems
且
is
它
still
好
in
像不是刚才说有
operations.
16个喷泉吗？
We talk about the
16
16 fountains.
在第4个喷泉那儿呢，
And on the
还有一
fourth,
个能
at the
够
fourth
泄洪
fountains.
有点像泄洪的那个功能的
So
一
when the
个
rates
口儿
exceed,
啊
there's
有
actually
水
an
太多
opening.
呢
So when
它
the
就给
flow
它
rates
溢出来
exceeds,
哈
say
就到
100
喷泉
liters
旁
per
边的
minute,
花岗岩的
there's
那
the
个台阶上
control
去了就
hole
流走了。
of
对
fountain
还
number
不会太
4.
多
They will drain
哇，
excess
那这个
water,
设计的设计对
so allowing it to
太精妙了
overflow onto the
对
granite steps
你说
of
这
the
个，所以它
fountains.
这个一城人说200多个建筑嘛，应该能住个1800人啊，800到1000人吧。
嗯
这个全靠这个饮用水，
So this place can support
生活非常安
the
乐
people, the
这个
residents living here.
这个供水系统太神秘了啊。
This water system
嗯，
然后我还
is so
觉得哈
sacred.
这个流速又不是太快，又
And I
不是
think
太
what's
慢
also
啊
amazing
这个
is that
水
the
渠又
speed
不是
of
太
flow
宽
is
它
very
这个
reasonable.
深度跟宽度
And the
都是
water
都有设
channels,
计的
the
它
depth
会它会
and the
保持这
width
个水质的
is
干净
reasonable.
就
You
不
will
会过度
ensure
地
that
沉淀的
the
让它沉
water
下去
对，
太快的
maintain
话就沉不下去
cleanliness.
对不对？
对对
对不对？泥沙
It is not too fast. If it's too
它
fast,
是慢慢流
it will not be able to cleanse the water.
哎，它又沉下去，
And it has a certain
流
angle, certain inclinations.
2、3
是
对，
就缓缓的流，
So it flows very gently and
就
slowly
变成了沉淀。
对
and allows sediments
动
to
物洋河
settle.
之类的又踩进来了吧？哎，我觉得它特别科学的。
So I think it's very scientific, the design of the water channel,
就是
its design of the spring
一
fountains.
个挖了一个人
It's
造的，
amazing how to measure so accurately.
渠，
并且自动的一直
They can
放进
control the water flow speeds,
对对，
and they also buffer reservoirs,
这个很神奇。
as well as the waterway inclinations.
的地震，这个水渠没有遭受任何的损
So
坏
the sediment settles and the water becomes clear.
对，它从地震断层
And
口
the
里出
foundation structure must be very strong. Don't forget this is built on the jungle-covered mountains, and they have withstand so many earthquakes. And the waterway have not been damaged. So the water continues to flow smoothly and continuously. So the water flows slowly and remain unchanged for thousands of years, which is incredible.
3%，咱们眼睛几乎都看不出来。让这样的就让那个水流哈就变得缓慢了。你看它越陡流得越快嘛。
So because they put it at an angle,
它就非常
it is quite gentle, the slope is quite gentle, it slows down the flow.
一下子给流完了。
And because it slows down the flow, it ensures that there's continuations of the water. So what's the purpose for it to, the slope is constructed to be gentler so that they can ensure that the water is constantly supplied at a very reasonable
水
rate
渠也有的
to
是
all
这
parts
个
of the
拐弯
cities.
的，有的还是一个直角的，还设计了不同。
In fact, they have different designs. There are some curved corners, there are some very straight water movements. So if you look at the corners,
那个一个是直角拐弯，
对，
one is a sharp
因为
turn.
它有的环境它是需要有个拐弯。
In fact, some places they need the environment itself needs it to have a sharp curve. It got to do with
直角拐
the
弯呢有很
locations.
多不是刻意的，它是需要。
Sometimes
但是有一种
they
拐弯呢是
purposely do
刻意
it
的
that way.
比如说叫 Z 型，或者是类似于一个方格型，是吧？这种呢，其实缓解水流，
Actually,
哎，
it will slow the flows.
流速是吧？
It controls the
非常
flow.
科学啊。
It is very
你看它一
scientific.
直落差嘛，
So if you look at it, the inclinations from the top all the way down.
高一个这样流动的这个，它叫喷泉的那个，
So they have the fountains.
啊，
哎，到了下头来之后，
And when we reach the
再往
bottom,
前走，
as it moves
这个
forward,
流动的时候哈，
if you look at the
它又
flow
怕
of water,
有时它又怕流得太猛，
they are afraid that it
从
will
上
flow
头
too
像一个
fast.
小瀑布一样那么流下来，它的水的速度
So
就
they
加
try to
快了
control the water
加
flow.
快就容易流淌的没有了，
对对对，
哎，所以它还一个是做了这个 U 型，啊，这个直角方块儿
That's why they
直角的
constructed the
这样的
U-shaped
条水渠的设
and
计
the
啊
sharp turns
就使它绝对减
so that they
就减
adjust
速
the speed of the water
像
flow.
开车一样，
It is like
很
driving.
多拐弯的时候你能跑多快？
If it keeps having the turn, can you drive fast?
还是快拐
No.
拐快了冲
You
出
need
去
to
了
have more curves so that you slow down
就是
your
这样
speed of
要是一
driving.
直笔直的大路的话，那车那司机都开着睡着了都能冲出去，就变得越开越快。
So if it's so, it's the same
其实风
reasoning.
也是这样。你看中国北方说植树造林挡风，对不对？
对
对，
我把树多栽一点，风都能被挡。
So it's like in northern China, they build trees. They actually plant trees to
这个水的流
to
速
prevent the
就
wind
变
to flow too strong.
哎，对。再一个，它到了每一个往下流动的接水的这个池子这里哈，
对
它变一个小方池。
So everywhere, when you reach, there's a fountain.
小的蓄
There is a
如
reservoir
果我
at
们
the
管理
fountains.
河道的时候，如果把这个水能够最好的利用的时候，在河道到了一定程度的时候哈，就要找出一个像水库一样的
对
啊，旁边把它挖大、挖圆、
So
挖
if
大
we-
挖方。
When we have a place, we want to have a place to, we want to have a
这样的
reservoir
话
to
呢
collect the
就是人类
water.
可以控制的。
Why
不
do
要
they do
说水
that?
多的时候
So that
自
you
动
can
往下流
control
淌
the water flows.
不该要的水，它拼命就流下去了，那么下游都淹了，知道吗？
So you want to have a reservoir to use that to control the flows.
所以我人为控制的时候呢，
So when you
我就
control
适
the
当地往
flows,
下放这个水，
you will
这
let
样
go
呢
of some
永远有
water,
水等干旱的时候，我水库还停着
especially
水
during the
这是一个水库
especially
啊
during the
更
drought
科学的时候
periods.
弄7、8个水库在一条河上去，才是最有效的这个 叫做管理水。
So you want to make sure that on the
你
river
想象出来
you
吗？
have a few,
它这个马丘比丘上这个
there are a
一个
few of
这
such
个小
similar,
小泉
like
水
a
哈
little
有可能
reservoirs
一个一个的
to
这个
control
小
it.
方槽
So in
它
Machu
都是
Picchu,
方
there are
形槽
many
哈
similar,
小
like
方槽
a very
其中起到
small
了这个作用
container.
啊
This
当
have
然了
that
这个方
purpose. They
槽
serve
皇
that
帝可以站
purpose.
在那里干脆连个洗个澡儿也可以是吧？
下面再
这个是有可能的，这个经常会有
So
这样
it's a collection point
对不对？但是呢，
to
经
collect
过这个
excessive
小槽之
water.
后呢，其实我见过那种槽哈，
I've
它这
seen
个槽呢，
some.
比如说是1米深，
Say, for example,
可
it's
是
1 meter
这个槽
deep,
的出水口是多高呢？是80公分的位置。
but it
底
has
下会有
this.
80公分的一个
It's this one where the water container will always contain about 80% of the water. So in this process of water collections, they can control the water flow.
在80公分的时候才有个槽再流出去。
So beyond 80%, there's another container
所以如果说我
and
这
it
个
will flow
而且
out
这个
of
角
it.
度流的比较猛了之
So
后，
if the
我
angle
上
is
游的
too
水流
strong,
它一下就会流
you
干
find that
那
the
个一
water
个小
flows
泉
will
水啊
complete
经不起
very
猛烈
fast.
的流出去，
对，
是不是啊？这一会儿喝了2口，结果其他的几吨水全给放没了。
So you want to control the
所以它
water
通过各
flow.
种方法
So they
来
use
让这个
various
水啊
methods
能够
so
流得
that
更缓慢。
the water
更有
can
效
flow
让更多
slower,
需要水的
gentler,
人能喝到水。
so that people who needs water will be able to drink the
其
water.
实非常的科学。
It is very
我
scientific.
是可以理解的，
I can understand it,
很少能做到这
but
一
a
步。
lot of times modern people are not able to do that. In fact, the current people, they are not able to achieve the type
关键
of,
它那个2%的
the
那
same
个角度，那个在
and also it's the degree, the precisions in the
网友可能
degree,
不懂那
the
个
2%.
2%。
You may not
我来
know,
解
you
释
may
一
not
下这个
understand the 2%.
它如果
So
用
let
这
me
个
explain to
水
you.
平仪
So if they
水
use the
平仪
same
绝对
level
叫100%，
water,
对不对？
if you use
在
the,
2%稍微在那个度上一丁点儿就
you
斜
need
下
a
去了，
slight
因为后头有
tilt, the 2
98
degrees,
分呢，
2
对不
degrees
对？
tilt.
一丁点儿的斜度，
When you have
这一
slight
丁点儿的
tilt,
斜度也促进它流，但是
it
它
helps
流
in the
更远
flow, but the flow is insignificance.
是吧？如果天特别冷，到了0度左右，
If
它
it's
就不
very
流了。
cold and if it reaches the degree, it will not flow because it will turn into ice. But what it is that it will slow down the flow so that you can protect the
你
water
流得越
source.
快，它容易飞溅，飞溅就浪费水嘛。那你看这个太，
设计出来，
So this design itself,
造出来
它
的
能够设计出来，它能建造出来，
they can build
并且
this
现在还在用，
and they're still using it.
这个太厉害了。
So that part
嗯，
is super amazing.
惊叹
惊叹，
It's totally stunning.
刚才看到的是它的这个引水供水系统，
So we look at
它的
the
排
water
水系统
drainage
也
systems.
是非常令人敬佩的。
It is also amazing.
哎，对，因为马丘比
Not
丘
only
这个
that,
地方啊，它的降雨量
because
是很高的
Machu Picchu
它的
receive
年降雨量
heavy
是2000
rainfall
毫米
every year.
那我们打
So
个
the
比方，我们现在
annual
在马来
rainfall
西
is
亚嘛
about
马来西亚
2,000
是热带
millimeters,
雨
which is
区
about
这降雨量
2.5
是
times
是更高的
that
啊
of
几乎
Chicago.
天天下雨
So it
我们
almost
这里
rains
呢基本
for
上
December
才
to March every year.
2600
That's heavy
啊
rainfall
2600
almost
毫
every
米
day.
哦，
那在温哥华呢
So in
温哥华
Vancouver,
这个雨季的时候降雨
when
量
it
也
rain
不少
seasons,
哈但全年的降雨量也才1400
it's about
那再
1,400
说到北
millimeters.
京就
If you
稍
go
微
to
干一点
Beijing,
哈
it's
这个降雨
drier.
量才600
It's about 600.
广州呢？
Guangzhou.
广州
好像
我记得是1500啊。
Guangzhou, I think, is about
1600
1,500.
是，对，那这里的降雨量就是非常高了。
So for
而且
Machu
呢它
Picchu,
有
it
几个月
received
就是冬
very
天的那几
heavy
个月
rainfall.
就是我们这边冬天，他们那边是夏天了哈，就12月份到3
So
月
for
份左右
them, for
它是
December
有
to
暴雨
March
型的气候
every year,
哦，
就是会
they have
连续
very
下雨
heavy
然后
rainfall.
山上经常会容易
And
有
because
山
of
体
that,
滑坡啊
they
这
are
种
very
情况
prone
出
to
现啊。所以
landslides.
呢，在这个山巅之上来建一个城市
So
哈
to build
怎么
such
样
a
能够让它
cities
不被冲下去
so that it
其
will
实是
not
挺
be
重要的
washed, so it will not
这
be
暴雨天
it will not be
降
affected by the
它这个
heavy rain
排
is
水
actually
是怎么
very
做的呢
important.
在它的这些建筑的
So
墙
in
中
these
啊它
buildings,
设计了很多这种
they
排水
have
孔
designed a lot
然后
of
这些排
drainage
水孔把水
holes
排下
in
去
the
来之
stone
后呢
walls of the
在它
cities.
整个的这个地面上啊，它有100多个排水沟。
And there are more than 100
对，这个
drainage
是排水
ditch
孔哈，我们看一下，
that have been
它地面
installed
上的
throughout the
100
cities.
多条排水沟，它设计的也很好。
And
在
the
我们地图
design,
上
if
这
you
种
look at the
黑的
picture,
小一
the
小段
drainage
小段
ditches
的全是它的排
crisscross
水沟
the
你
entire
看它等于是
Inca.
纵横交错，
If
在
you
它
look at
整
the
个的
place,
这个地面上都有哈。那这些排水沟啊，
So what they do is that they get into the center, to the center square. So this ditches, they lead to the center square. That's a huge one at the center. So what do they do there? This central square, below the square, what do they have? First, they have a topsoil, and then they have gravels. And beyond that, they have a thick layers of granite fragments and small stones. So this is something that we look at the visual to explain it. So nearly 3 meters deep underground. So the top layer is the topsoil, gravels, and then you have granite fragments and small stones. So it's nearly 3 meters deep underground. So when the water enters down, it is collected here and sent out of the cities. So from the base inside there, there's also 3 major drainage and flow outwards. There also has a large area of terrace. And this is also an important part of the drainage systems because the terraces are built in layers. So at the top layers, upper layers, is fertile topsoil. And in the intermediate layer of sands, you have sands and soil, and the lower layers is the gravels. And then there are large rocks underground. So when and at the base, you have this huge drainage to drain out of the cities. So because of the clever water seepage systems, it prevents rainwater from washing away the mountains. So if you look at from the animations, the water slowly seeps through. So there's a hydraulic expert, Kenneth Wright, spent 15 years studying Machu Picchu's drainage systems. His research shows that Machu Picchu's underground engineering accounts for 50 to 60%, supporting the entire city. He feels that this is a marvel of engineering to be able to build such an architecture, such a buildings at such high altitude. And it was not spoiled at all. And it's still standing strong. I think globally this is the one and only one to have this terrace. If you think about how developed we are today in terms of technology, none of the country is able to invest to construct something like this. Who is able to do that? To do such excellent drainage systems? This is a massive project. And that's why the drainage systems was a marvel of engineering. They must have expended extensive time. And if you look at the buildings of the terrace and the structure, how it's stacked on the cliff, it is a lot safer. So there is a huge scale of terrace. We talk about the Inca civilizations. They plant a lot. So the purpose of the terrace, we saw from the picture, the green part are fertile soil. If you look at the site is actually placed with stones. to protect it. Why do they have stones as a wall? It's actually protect the plants, the crops. Who did such an excellent project? Actually, in a lot of mountainous areas, they do have terrace. But who actually built the stones to protect the edge of the terrace? Well, from my experience, this place has very heavy rainforest. Most of the time, after people constructed the brick walls, when it has excessive rains, you find that they will cause expansions within the terrace, and it will wash some of the stones away. But it didn't. The stones still stand very firm after so many years. That's very amazing. And why is it that they built such terrace? So over at the other side of opposite cliffs, they found that there are some terrace up there as well. Why? Why did they build this? Maybe they did this not because they want to build, they want to farm some crops. Maybe it's just to protect the mountains. Maybe they don't want to have landslides. That's my guess. But in any case, this is a mega engineering project. But why do people want to protect the mountains? Why here? Why the city here? Why this mountain? I don't think it's protecting the tree. I don't think it's protecting. They built the terrace to protect the mountain. It's like the Taiwanese, they have tea. They say that, well, the tea is oolong tea is one of a breed of oolong tea in the mountainous area of Taiwan. So maybe, well, we can delve deeper to understand. But the main issue is that to build terrace right at the top of the cliff is a very difficult task. Why do they do that? Who they want to protect? For what? What's that for? Because the terrace are built layers. Because when you are at the opposite end, it's about more than 3,000 meters. So even if you climb up, you cannot come down. Because the terrace are found. Who actually managed that? The terraced views across the other mountains. So that's why some said, are they built by people from people from space? Who built it? Oh, there was actually a mysterious discovery in Peru as well by the Peruvian archaeologists. Let's look at the picture. There's some skull. The skull is it's called as Paracas skull. And they discovered the burial soil under the burial soil of the Peruvian desert. This mysterious cemetery. And they did some tests of these skulls. They found that this Paracas skull is unlike any skull known to man. It is particularly elongated. It is at least 25% larger than normal human skull and is heavier. So they did a DNA testing on the samples, and the result found that certain DNA fragments in the skull could not be matched to any known humans. But some of the DNA did belong to humans.
帽子似的感觉，对，
就跟这个头颅骨特别像。埃及
They found that in Egypt, there are also some of these skulls. Does it mean that the Egyptians came to build Machu
还
Picchu?
有这长脑的人，
Who built Machu
这
Picchu?
个相似的地方，对，
那它到底是谁建的？有没有一些推测？
Do we have some
还有这个
predictions?
为什么这长脑的人来了？还有为什么这个马丘比丘这个地方，这个长脑袋的这种头颅骨，里边没有这个人地球生物的 DNA？ 那说明啥？这件事说明
Why is it that the found cemeteries of the Paracas skull, there is no human
对
DNA?
呀，这头颅骨里头有
Some of
部
the
分人的
DNA didn't belong, did not match any known humans. Why?
咱们这些科学家测 DNA 的科学家哈，
Because the
就在地
scientists
球上
that test
所
the
有的动
DNA,
物
they
植物
gather
生物
all
那个
living
DNA
things.
它都有存样，
They have samples of
对不
all
对
the
所以在这
DNAs.
个骨头上呢，就
But
长脑袋
on
这个
the-
骨头上呢，就
but
发现
on
多
the
数的
skull,
DNA 根本与地球上
They
的生物
find that
没
it's
有
no
关系
match.
对，
那
They
你
couldn't
只
find a
能说这
match.
是外来生物，
They can only say that
但
it
是有
doesn't
一部
belong
分是
here.
人类哈，
对，
Only some of the
所以有
DNA
一
that
个
belong to humans.
新的概念，
So there's the
有点
new
像那个
concepts.
欧洲的一些神话传说，
It's a little bit like
半
mystical
神
mystical figures.
半神
demigod
就是
like-
天神与人间的人
It's a
结
combinations
合的
of
产
God and human beings.
对
哦，
半神，
是
也就是他有
Half
这个
God,
人的这个
half
特征
humans.
对，
但是呢，
They
他
have
的某种
some-
某些能力
Some of
是
its
神的特征
abilities, they have
对他这个头颅骨还有一个研究的数
it's
据
like
嘛
demigod,
就是说
God
你
man.
看他那个头颅骨比我们现在正常。
So
我们
if you
这
look
原来
at
的人的
the
这个头颅
skull,
骨
it's
大
a lot
25%，
longer
要是
than human
它
beings.
重的话，也应该重25%。
It's probably at least 25% heavier than a human
特
skull.
别沉，它比我们正常的我们这个圆脑袋的人的话，那头颅骨要沉出来60%，
哇，那
说
稀
明它骨
有金属
密度
啊
很大。
So it is very dense. The skull is very dense.
啊，所以它这个说明它
And
骨密
its
度跟
weight
这个人类的
60% more than a normal skull.
对
It's larger
对
and
这么大
heavier, a
的
lot
那
heavier,
是人
60%
有
heavier than a
也
normal
确实不
skull.
是
不是人，
哎
对，
So definitely
对
not
它就是
human
半
skull.
神
半神
It's
呐
demigods.
哦，
所以你看建造这样的一个大工
And
程
that's why
啊
to be able
就
to
是我们人
construct
类的
something
能
so
力与智
massive,
慧
our
是做不
humans
到
metal
就是用今天
our
你
humans
说
even
科技
with
这么发
today's
达了是吧？咱们这个卫星
advancements
上载
in
天上转悠不是上
technology,
万颗了都，对不
we're
对？
still not
就是
able
探
to
索一会儿
develop
去
this.
火星干啥的这么厉害？但是我们今天的建筑能力上来说，今天用现代化的东西来重新复制一个马丘比丘，我相信做不到。
It's not
没
possible
10
for
年
us
就已经这儿漏
to
水那漏电
rebuild a Machu Picchu.
对，或者一地
No
震就
一地震对不就完了，就成了废墟了。
一洪水就冲走了。
对对对，所以这个的制造是目前人类还很难做到。
So this construction is something that
大
human
石头谁搬得
beings
动
have not been able to do that.
对，人是
And
搬
who
不动
built
的
对
the huge
这个
rocks
石头的
up
切
to
割
the
能力
right
哈
in the
第一个
mountains?
它任意拿它
Even
任
the
意
cutting
捏
of it.
第二个就像切土豆一样。任
So
意
the
去切
stone
它
building, the cutting abilities, the construction method,
人
there's no
人类
adhesive
做不到
methods. There's
我觉得
perfect fit.
要不就是你有这
And
种
I
超
don't
大
think
的
it's
这种
done by
工具
human
对不对
beings.
哎，那么
Human beings
我再这么
not
理
able
解
to do
就是
that.
大家一般人现在都不敢相信的一种概念，就是神。
Maybe it's done by God.
师傅，这个
来吧
神是不是等于外星人？
But who is this
它有什么
demigod?
关系这两个词儿
Is it
你说
from
的
outer
你说的这
space?
个部分哈，这个我们可以将来再讲一期。
We
到时候那
can't
个
have
少
that
数人会
specific.
到
We
时候
can
看
have
下
that
一期这个
specific topics by itself.
吧
There may
哎
be a small group of people that may be
细节的
keen
分割
to watch
好吧
this.
就是宇
So
宙星空之中
this is
的生
about
命
the
咱们
universe,
讲
the
讲
life
西藏经
forms
啊
in the universe.
当时不也
We
讲了
talk
这个
about
天
the
国
Earth
分
Soul
好多个层
Bodhisattvas.
次
We
对不
talk
对
about
对
the
它就是
Earth Soul
说就算
Bodhisattva
是我们
Sutra.
笼统说是
We
外
say
星人
that
哈
they are
它也分了
different.
很
The
多种
universe are separated to different different levels as well. But when we talk about God level life, or like the creators, are they the same? No, may not be the, what it may not be the God that's known to the Western world. No. When we consider that as God, first, it doesn't have a physical forms. Secondly, it has the ability to fly. It is able to transcend time-space. Thirdly, it's infinite. Say you want to have a bowl of noodles, it will just appear. It doesn't matter whether you are in the divine world or in the human world. It has this power, extremely powerful, capable, and intelligence. And it's extremely rich. Whatever they want, they can have it. These few pictures, it just shows how easy for God, for demigod to move. Actually, you look at the height of the figures. It is not using the physical strength to do that. No, it is a way of willpower. It is a precise formations of the rock forms. It is like the huge piece of rock that we talk about. It just needs the intentions and then the design and it appears. This is why I think the demigod will be able to do it. Because when you are at God level, you can use thunder. You'll be able to just cut through a tree just in a split second. You find that the tree, even if it's 50 meters tall, and just using the thunder, the lightnings, just the lightnings, 15 centimeter width and a 50-meter height. It will be empty right at the center when the lightning strikes. So for God, that's how easy they can do work. Maybe when the godlike beings can think about it, they can just cut the stones based on the precision, what they want. This is a very easy task for demigod. We can talk about the next lessons. It is other games that's created by God. So now, Master, we know that it's demigod or God-like to construct this. And when did it come? Because from an archaeologist's perspective, they talk about Inca civilizations. But now, after what we heard, it's probably not possible that the Inca do that. In fact, some of the Inca's people believe that there's another ancient civilizations that built this. So basically, the Incas just take on what the previous civilizations have left behind. So maybe how earlier was that? Maybe more than 10,000 years. And also, we talk about the Inca Picchu, some of the ferns that grow there. It exists 6,000 years ago. So what it means that it may have existed more than 6,000 years ago. And we talk about the temple, the Sun temple, and it has a certain measurements of the universe, the star, the sign. The last time when we spoke about the Egyptian pyramids, we talk about how it corresponds to certain signs, certain in the universe. Maybe there are a lot of this thinking. Maybe we just want to ask, Master, when was this built? I'm not sure when it was built because I was not involved. I was actually meditating in the black hole. But I think that it's probably between 5,000 to 10,000 years ago. It is a demigod that was here. So it is quite similar to the Egyptians' pyramids. It's about that time. Actually, the huge stones was also tons, weight tons. And if you think about how the pyramid was built, it was very intense. And it's a very difficult task. And I think in the pyramids, we also know that they are mummies. They love gold. They found mummies in there. They love gold. Why do they pick this place, Master? That's a good question. Why within the two mountains? And at the why did they pick a spot like this, where we human beings think is the most difficult place? But to build this, for human beings, actually, we find that it is tough, it is difficult, but for God, it is not. It is an easy feat. In fact, they find that that is the right level. Maybe they find that that's the most appropriate level. Let's talk about the place. The place is selected by God. In fact, the gods that came here, they are not the first batch that came. Actually, before them, they already created a lot of treasure. You mentioned one. It's gold, right? So they have a lot of gold reserved there. So when the Spanish came, when they robbed them, the gold, but they have so much gold there. They didn't expect that gold will have so much values. But they wear gold because it could be something that's beautiful and fun. But when the Spanish invade them, they see that they have so much gold, and that's why they rob them. But actually, Peru has a lot of gold, has a lot of silver. They rank the top, and that's expensive metal and copper. Copper is very important. So you have gold, you have silver, you have copper. These are very critical methods in a lot of developments. You can see from the internet, a lot of our phone, our cell phone, people actually find that within a cell phone, there are some gold content in it. A lot of signal, the phones, they use a lot of wirings, but different type of metal. So now they change to copper, but they find that that's not good enough. Now they use cable optics. They can pass a lot of message. In the past, they need a metal to pass electricities, but now the fiber optic is to pass messages. And then they found that they can use glass fiber. It is the first batch, the cleanest refined products from petrol. It's actually used to make mineral water bottle. It is very clear. They use this material to make the optics, to make the fiber. It's able to transmit 1,000 times better than a copper wire. So that's why a lot of people are using this type for communications. So this country, Peru, has a lot of natural reserves, metal reserves. They also have a lot of precious stones. A lot of people who have heard from Master says that gold is actually not from earth. Is that something that's given by God? Yes, given by God. Even we have developed so much in technology. We are not human beings not able to create gold. You can't create with any materials. How did it arise? It's actually from Mars. Are they from Mars? Actually, in the universe, there are a lot of stones. They have a lot of metal contents. So maybe they are here. They are actually from Venus. So a lot of time they didn't know that these metals are so expensive. So what happens is that eventually it is integrated with the mountainous, with the land. And that's why we need to, it's actually part of the deposits. But now you find that a lot of government, they try to prevent a lot of explorations of these natural reserves, like metal reserves, where they're hidden. They're hidden in a lot of mountainous areas. So for the explorations, it is not easy to do that. The technology that we have right now is very primitive. So why do the government try to restrict? Because they don't want to exploit all of it, all the natural resources. So actually, Peru is a site that's selected by the god. If you find that a lot of gods, where do they live? They live under Andes mountainous range. So now we know who built Machu Picchu. I think I guessed it. It is for their children, which is demigods. It's God created Machu Picchu for their children, and the children are the demigods. It's a combination of the god and the human beings. These are the ones with elongated skull. Does it mean that they lose the abilities of God? They can still fly as well. They can still. It's just like the rooster. The rooster can fly to trees, but they can't fly to the sky. So it's actually for the demigods, which is the son of gods. Then you may ask, why is it for? Why do they want to build that? It is not for living. It is for research.
对。但是这个部分
But this
细
part,
节的科研很有意思
the
哈
detail of it
我
is
们还会
very
讲这个
interesting.
秘鲁的
We'll talk about the Peru, the second part of
就可以用你知道
it.
在科研什么了
Do you know what you're
我
going
们
to
现在
do?
都在用的哈
There's
但不
something
透
that
露
we
啊
use every day, but
对
I will not
都是他们
disclose
的
now. That's what they do there.
所以这个地方
So
马
this
丘比
part,
丘
Machu
整个
Picchu,
的用途
the
是一
whole
种
entire
综合的
place is
科学实验场
is actually a research place.
这里面还有你看光从
So
表面
if
上
you
咱
look
们
at
看
it,
到的
if you look
就
at the
教了我们
picture,
建筑学
they talk about
水利
agriculture.
工程学
You talk
还
about
有呢
drainage
旁边之前
systems.
呢
They talk about terrace, the
还有供
field,
水系统
and
排
they
水
talk
系统
about the
种
water.
植
They talk
种
about
植里
even
头还教我们
agriculture
种植各种不
and
同的
different
这个
types
植物生物
of plantations,
还有天文学
and also
还有
astronomy
医疗
and medical. Medical, yes,
都在这里
it's all included here.
所以我们只有慢慢解读你才能
So
学
we
得
need
更
to
好
understand slowly
上的
so that you will be able to have a deeper understanding of it.
这些方方面面的这些技能哈，把这更
对
高的智慧传递给我们。
他是
对
教会他的孩子那个半神，
So the children are are
但是目
demigods.
的
Why?
首
And then
先这个
demigods
神
teach
有
human
的分善与
beings.
不善啊
But you must understand, God, they are good gods and evil gods. So this is huge, kind
这个科研家
kind
是做
God.
好事儿的，
So it's
为
good
人类
things
服务
for human beings.
不是说什么，哎呀
对，
把人抓起来什么搞研究的那种。
不是不是
哦，放心了。
他不像医学院逮着个人先给你解
So no, it's not about capturing someone and do dissections. No, it's not. It is a great, kind God that created Machu Picchu.
好的好的，哇，这个马丘比丘太神秘了。
It's so mystical.
对，
就是
Yes.
您去过秘鲁吗？
没有
Master, have you been to Peru?
我估计很多网友很
No.
想去亲
I'm sure now a lot of people want to visit Peru now.
行啊，咱们抽空去一趟呗
Yeah, well, let's find a time to visit the place.
对，
对啊，这么
咱们也
神秘的地
到这
方，
个马丘比丘上头看一看，
You should go and visit Machu Picchu.
真是。
所以我就提醒大家，你到那里之后啊，你一定注意低着头看啊，
When you're there,
捡着金豆豆
you must try to put your head down when you walk because you may be able to find some golden beans.
到自然的环境里
跟。着师傅走，保证能捡到。
If we follow Master, we definitely can find golden beans.
这个地方很神秘哈，
It's a very mystical place.
疑问都解开了吧？
So your questions answered?
一部分还有一部分
Just a portion, Master.
下一次再说。
Another portion we leave to next time.
什么的嘛。
对。
We want to know what's the
还
research
有一
base
个
for.
有一个问题哈
Actually,
我今天
there
先
is
告诉你
another
这个
questions.
问题所在，
And
就关于西班牙人
what about the
在500年
Spanish?
前哈
500 years
到了
ago,
这里哈
they
到了
came
秘鲁
here, they came to
西
Peru,
班牙人呢，
but
其实当时是163个人到的。
actually during that time there was only 163 Spanish soldiers
区域
arrived.
的人和人之间虽然都是人哈，
Because although they are all
他们
human
距离太
beings,
远了
but
隔着太平洋
they
哈
are from
哎
far.
相反呢
They
他们
came
身上
from
的这
far.
个基因
And that's why their own genes
病毒
or
身
their
上有病毒，我们自己不知道。
actually
这个
every one of
活得
us we
好好
may
的
have some
你接触到，尤其是比如说今天在深山里头
virus.
它不
So
能
say
直接
for
在你身
example,
上
if you go to
你
the
和它稍微
mountains,
在一起做了
you
亲
don't
近
interact with
它说
them.
不定第二天
You
就
have
真的不一
you
样。
have a meal with the
就是
people
我们
live in
身
the
上的病
mountainous
毒和
areas.
他身
You
上的
may
病毒
pass
是
your
不一
virus to
样的
them and the person may
他
die the
身上的
next
病毒
day.
可能带着鼠疫，
So actually the person may have some it is a mutual crossover. It
所以
may
我们死了
affect
之后，其他外面的社区的人也死，知道吗？所以这个鼠疫就是瘟疫，
so when there is a
不
pandemic
同的
that
族
occurs,
群之间
what happens is
你们
that
这
there are
个传
different
播越
tribes
容易
because
有
the
的时候说你在
the
外面
purer
吃
you
饭的
are,
时候人的筷子尽量别
then
是吧？
you
但
it's
不
higher
是
for you
为
to
了
get
就
it.
是你增加你的抵
Why
抗
is
力
it that we say that
因
when
为
you
你
go
身上
out
什
you
么
don't
细
want
菌
to
都
be
有
too
还怕
clean?
同样
Why? Because then you may have no
其
immunity
实这个道
to
理是很
germs.
科学的。
This is
一般
actually
呢我就
very
不洗筷子
scientific.
我一
So
般
for
打
me,
开我
usually
拿
I
筷子
don't
在那
wash
个
my
盘子擦
chopsticks.
蹭两下
So I
就可以
just
吃了，
gently just
对不对？咱这空
wiped
中
it.
故意晃两下，
Or I even like just use the chopsticks and just
其实是这样的。
just
所以你到哪，你说你
cleanse
每
it
天
against the air. So don't be excessive cleaned, because as long as it's not the pandemic, try not to use the alcohol to kill the germs, because that itself it has a bad effect as well. So if you think about it, when the Spanish soldiers went there, only 163 soldiers went, and the 10 million people in Incas totally, almost completely wiped out. Why? Is that a coincidence? That's the question. We don't think it's coincidence. Because Masters, you mentioned that there's no coincidence in the world, especially the major event. From the Joey point of view, there is, as you walk, there is leaves, the fallen leaves, then you saw the fallen leaves, there is a meaning. You go to whoever house and the person's house bite you, that is also no coincidence. Just remember that. Does it mean that the owners becomes a dog? No. Actually, the dog is helping the owners. You go to the person, your friend's house, the cat attacked you, that's also the owners. That's the owner's intentions. You want to take revenge? You may want to keep a dog to take revenge. Actually, all things that happens is no coincidence. There is a reason behind. So, Master, we look forward to the next sessions to hear this in deeper, greater depth. The thing is that after we talk about this, we found that there are more questions that left solved, and that one led us to be interested to visit the place. The topic is very interesting, Master. So we look forward to the next sessions as Master share with us deeper. I think next live broadcast, we change a topic. We not talk about Machu Picchu, but maybe something within 1 to 2 months. We talk about Machu Picchu, and maybe we may have the lesson. We may have a third live stream on Peru's. Do we have any contents that we want to share? The next live broadcast will be December the 3rd, next Sunday, Taipei time, and for Vancouver time, it's 3 a.m. So today, the mysteries Machu Picchu, that's pretty much of discussion. And I wish all health, longevity, happiness, and see you during the next live broadcast.
小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。我智慧了，我宽容了，我慈悲了，我自在了。因为有了你，生命变得更坚定，不忧忧无虑。 喜。我智慧了，我宽容了，我慈悲了，我自在了，因为有了你，了解生命的真理，修行的意义。因为有了你，日子犹如彩虹般美丽。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了，我快乐了，我美丽了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与您相遇。小小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。